Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ken, I am also known as the Phoenix, and there's been a lot on my mind. First off, we have another video coming from the back seat of my car. I am doing this right now because this is a new process and I am in the middle of the city. You might hear the train going on a block away, you might not. It is also raining, but since this is so new and I am in the middle of the city when I record these, right now it's easier to do it from my car. And again, when I'm in the front seat, I have been approached by numerous people in the past asking for money. And it's not something that I give willy-nilly. I know a lot of people, they do need it, and so in this exact instance, I did give the individual all the cash I had. It was like $5. And he said he needed a little bit just to get across town. And then like 2 or 3 days later, I was out here again on my break, relaxing, just in the sanctity of my own car, my safe space, you know, my sacred space. And he came over again. And I looked at him and I just shook my head, and he knew that he'd already used the same story on me before. So he just turned around and walked away. So I know that the back seat of my car doesn't have the most tinted windows, as you can see. However, it is more difficult for someone to see me in the back seat from the street than if I were to sit up front where there is more light. Not saying that it's not possible. I am just simply stating that I do this for better concealment and to ensure my privacy, basically. It just feels more private, and honestly, when you try to look into someone's vehicle with the reflections off the windows anyways, it's much more difficult to see someone. So that is why I am coming to you from the back seat of my car, and we'll continue to do so for a little bit. As I did mention before, this is new and things will change. I am just figuring out that process. I'm scouting out areas where I can come to you. The last thing that I want to do is record these messages where other people have access to interrupt my thought process or try to ruin, you know, just the moment, the message that I'm trying to provide. The world is a crazy place out there, and remember, your sovereignty is non-negotiable, so I have free will and full control over the creativity of the message that I want to provide. So, long story short, this is why you are still getting the car vlog format, basically. But there is a lot that has been going through my mind recently, and I would like to go ahead and talk about that on this rainy day. It is very rainy here in the city. And the first thing that has come across my mind that I've been thinking a lot about today, there's two things, and that is, what does it mean to be a warrior? That is the first thing that I'm going to bring up. What does it mean to be a warrior? Immediately when you say warrior, you think of toxic masculinity, right? Masculinity has been under fire in the media the last few years. And toxic masculinity actually had its roots in advocating for men to be able to show emotion, right? Not have to put up this macho facade. And yet, now it has been turned into a meme, right? That's what the internet does, the collective consciousness. We grab everything like a pure concept, and we change it. We change the initial meaning, and whatever we change it to that gains traction, that is what it becomes. So now you hear toxic masculinity, you think of a car, or not a car, you think of a big truck blowing black smoke, or just someone, you know, putting on this really tough macho facade, and everyone tries to meme them for it, and it has a negative connotation to it. Now, maybe that is just the authentic person themselves. I know that when I look at a big vehicle, sometimes, you know, I really want one. But I also then think about how I really value like gas mileage and how practicality really comes into a factor when I buy a vehicle. But yeah, I don't need to be paying $80,000 for a truck with like a lift kit and stuff that I essentially don't need. I don't need to haul anything. I don't need to go off-road. Really, I just need a daily driver that has room and cargo space, and I have that. So I have everything that I need there and am fine with that. But getting back on topic here, toxic masculinity, what does it mean to be a warrior? So you think of toxic masculinity, you think of combat, you think of death, right? That is at least what I have been trained to think about when I think of a warrior, at least before I started actually thinking about it. And over the last few years, Light Keepers, I have been literally, I say literally a lot, that's something I'm gonna have to come to grips with, but I have been more discerning over my thoughts. I've said this before in the previous video, but where you put your attention is very important, and it is very important, especially in the spiritual community, to remain discerning, to hold on to your discernment. Don't just take anything that someone says with complete belief. Don't throw yourself 100% at that unless it resonates with you. You know, I might have a good message that resonates with you for one topic, but when I say something about something else, it might not resonate with you in that moment. It is very important for you to trust your feelings and to use your discernment to then ponder that question, think about that, and so on, so forth. Come to your own conclusions and think for yourself. Your sovereignty is non-negotiable. I would like you to write that in the comments. Say, my sovereignty is non-negotiable. Spread that message. Let the Matrix know that your sovereignty is non-negotiable, and choose what timeline you're going to be on. Getting back to warriors. You can be a warrior without killing anyone. I proved that. I proved that this is a 3D world. We are in the Matrix, right? And when we say the Matrix, we are in a mechanism that it just continuously, cyclically it perpetrates war and violence, and that is why you will not see anything very positive. When you look at the mainstream media, you will only see negativity. When there is no negativity to actually report, what do they report? Murder hornets. They had to find a filler episode, basically, in 2021 with the, while there was no, I'm trying to say this as to not get demonetized, right? This is me trying to forward think, project in the future whenever this does pop off, and whenever I do have a massive following and monetization is something I have to consider. I can't say certain words, keywords, on this platform. Now, if I were to move over to Patreon exclusive, that would be something to consider. And that is a clue for the surprises that I have down the road. But in 2021, when there was a break in the news cycle of the time, what did they talk about? Murder hornets. They didn't talk about how people came together, because that doesn't give them views. We are programmed for survival in this 3D environment. We need, no matter how much you want this to be a reality, and the fact that you don't want to live in a world where you have to know violence. Like, I wish that every day. I truly wish that I could live in a world where I did not have to worry about getting attacked. I wish that every person I met on the street was peaceful like me, but, you know, that's not what this world is about. That's not what this human experience is about. That's not why we came to this planet at this time. We came here for challenges, to overcome challenges, and people are chaos. You can't tell me that there is anything more terrifying than other humans. Human beings are terrifying. They are the most terrifying thing on this planet. Just because you can have one human being that does not have empathy, and they can wipe out so many people. So many people. And we've seen examples of that all over the place. However, because we live in this environment, no matter how much we wish we did not have to be knowledgeable in violence, it is the best way to ensure your safety. So yes, I was attacked, and I used this example before. I'll use it as many times as I need to. I was attacked in 2022. In April of 2022, we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of this event now, and I had to fight off a carjacker at gunpoint. Now, in the scuffle, I took his gun. I had the opportunity to inflict the same damage he wanted to inflict on me, but that is not my purpose. That is not my place. I am not judge, jury, executioner. I simply am someone who is in control. I am sovereign. So I had the freedom to protect myself. Once that threat was eliminated, there's no need to continue fighting. He was fleeing. And that is why perception is king. I've said it before. Perception in this reality is king. It is paramount for your success. It will determine how far you go. Being a warrior is important. Masculinity is not an issue. Masculinity is not the problem. It is fine to be masculine. It is fine to be yourself. Don't separate. Don't listen to everyone else telling you how to live your life or how to be. You are sovereign. Choose for yourself and go from there. And also lead with empathy. Understand that we are all just people. We are humans having a human experience. Don't judge others based solely on action and yourself based on intention, because we're all quite capable of messing up. Some of the worst things imaginable have been done with the best of intentions. Don't fall into the trap of judgment. That is negativity. That will cycle you back. No matter how far you come, as soon as you judge someone and start getting on that mindset, it's very easy to gain traction on that, and then you loop back around and you are back on the negative cycle, back on the negative timeline, back under control of this matrix. You are sovereign. Your sovereignty is non-negotiable. Perception is king in this reality. Understand that, light keepers. Understand that. So, being a warrior does not mean you have to kill. Being a warrior means that you simply will not sit back and take it. You will not be a victim. It is the opposite of victim mentality. You are not a victim. And it is okay to say that. It is okay to take your life into your own hands. Because while we do have emergency services, there are a lot of people that love to play the victim card and love to be in that negative state. And because they're in that negative state, and I don't know if you know this, it's been really difficult over the last couple of years to be a service worker, an emergency service worker, because let's face it, they don't make a lot and they have to go through a lot of trauma. They don't get compensated for anywhere near the amount that they should be, and they don't get the PTO that people like you or I in our corporate jobs do. They do not get that. So, because of that, they have to work odd hours, long hours, tough days, constantly under duress. Because seeing chaos, seeing the remnants of a shooting, seeing the remnants of human on human violence, whether intentional or unintentional, is traumatic. It is traumatic to watch someone expire right in front of your face. It is traumatic to see the human form in ways that it was not meant to be, or that we see in everyday life. And it is not as over the top and clean as portrayed in Hollywood and on the movies. Do not fall into the trap of the glorification of war. There's nothing glorifying about it. I'll never forget, back in the mid-2010s when The Walking Dead was at its peak, so many of my friends would say, just reiterate and parrot the phrase, "I wish there was a zombie apocalypse." How many people do you honestly remember parroting that same phrase? Like, subscribe, put in the comments, so-and-so used to parrot this. Or I knew X amount of people that parroted this phrase, because they were so numb to everyday life, their 9 to 5, going to that they were so spoiled because everything was so good that they were bored with their life. Maybe they're stuck in a job that they didn't enjoy. Maybe they were tired of their family. The same people day in, day out, no excitement in life because everything was planned and everything had to be a certain way because that's how they structured their life. And they wanted an escape. And so they said that they could not wait for a zombie apocalypse. I knew deep down that while I felt the way that I felt, that wasn't what I wanted. All I wanted was a simple escape. And I did manage to do that in a very peaceful way by making a decision that altered the course of my life. A lot of people told me not to do it. A lot of people told me I was going down a chaotic path. But had I not gone down the path that I did, I would absolutely hate my life right now. I would not be the person that I am today. I would not be able to stand where I stand and tell you all about my experience. Because while I might seem like a crazy guy in a car speaking nonsense, the truth that I speak is from my connection to the God source, my connection to God. And because of the experiences that I've gone through, I do have the backbone. I do have the ability to say, no, you're not going to treat me that way, right? It's a fine line between taking things personally and understanding when people are taking advantage of you. And it is up to you to set boundaries and to maintain those boundaries without remorse. And when people try to project, well, no, this is blah, 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 and they are taking their viewpoint and projecting and trying to contort it and turn their behavior back on you, that is when you cut them out. That is when you reiterate the fact that, no, this is exactly what you said. This is why I agreed to do what I agreed to, and now you're treating me differently. It is up to you to set those boundaries and to be unapologetic about it. Be completely unapologetic about the boundaries you set with your loved ones, with your friends, because people will treat you the way they perceive you. And if you let them do that, that's all on you. Again, perception is king. You are in control. It is up to you. Accountability. It is up to you to determine how people treat you. I want you to write that in the comments. Like, if that resonates with you. Write in the comments. I am accountable for myself and how people treat me. You are accountable. And 100%, your life is a sum of the choices that you've made. I've said it before. I will say it a million more times on this channel. Your life, your current situation is the sum of the choices you've made in your life, and you are solely responsible for making those choices. You might have felt that you did not have a choice in that moment, that the alternative was not a possibility that you could let stand, and so you sacrificed yourself and you made that choice. No one made you make that choice. You made that choice on your own. It is not anybody else's responsibility to save you. You have to do that yourself. Get yourself out of the cycle that you find yourself in, and get the life that brings you the greatest happiness. Because at the end of the day, no matter what you've done, no matter who you've hurt, it is always possible to make that change and become a better person. It is always possible to change your life, and while you're going down one path, you can just say, no, I don't want to go down this path, and then boop, divert it and go down the other. You can change your life right now. It will be slow at first, but you can do it. And when you look back a year, 3 years, 5 years, you will see a quickening. You will see the point that you wanted to make that change and how long you'd been thinking about making that change until something clicked and you finally got the courage to make the change. And then you did it, and you will see how you progress. That's a warrior mentality. Being a warrior is just not fighting. Being a warrior is defense. Being a warrior is not just physical, it is spiritual, it is mental. Strong mind, strong body. That's what they used to tell us when I was in basic training. Strong mind, strong body. And the best thing that basic training ever taught me was that your perception is everything. If I did not go through that event, I'll call it an event. If I did not go through that experience, I wouldn't know. I would not know. I didn't know how to effectively communicate before I went to basic training because I thought that speaking my mind and my truth, well, I thought that everyone would just be out to to be out to get me, and would just put up all these roadblocks and be evil and sneaky behind me and try to undermine me. And you know what? I did work in a toxic work environment like that. Quitting was the best thing I ever did. It was chaotic and it was tough, but when I look back, quitting was the best thing that I ever did to get out of that. Warrior mentality. It is not physical solely. It is not solely physical. Being a warrior is not solely physical. And it's neither 100% mental. It's a combination. It is you being able to be stalwart and to have self-love. Have the self-love and the dignity to tell people no and not feel guilty about it, and to also hold people accountable for the way they treat you. Be accountable for that. If someone treats you poorly and they just refuse to see things your way and they have to have things their way, cut them out. You won't miss them, I promise. Oh, but they're family. They're my family. Sometimes family members are the absolute worst offenders in everything, because whether it's your parent, your sibling, right? They think that you owe them something. Maybe the family has catered to them versus you your entire life, and no matter what you do, you're in the wrong. It is best to leave those people, because while you may have come in and while those are your family members, and people are like, oh, you can never abandon family. Yes, you can. Because at the end of the day, if you are faced with that challenge, what that is telling me is that is the challenge that you came here to face. That is something that on the other side you came here to do, was to learn self-respect, to learn dignity, and to say, you know what? I do love you guys, and I've done a lot for you. And then you can list it out, X, Y, Z, what you've done for them. And then say, and you know what? You've been completely unfair, and I've told you time and again that this is happening, and this is what's happening. Drop the bombshell on them. Set the boundary, leave. Things will change. Maybe they do come back and say, you know what? I'm sorry. Things are going to change. And you hold them accountable to that. That's on you. That is on you. Warrior mindset, accountability, perception, and just making sure that you embody self-love. Those are some of the most important things you can ever do in this life. Speak your truth. Learn how to communicate honestly, transparently, without being an asshole. It's very important. It's hard for us to talk about very emotional topics without getting very emotional. But if you are able to do that, sit with yourself, calm down, then reapproach the situation and say, hey, I want to talk about something with you. And then tell the person how, just very plainly, like, hey, I feel this way and your action made me feel this way. This is why. What's going on here? Have them explain it to you. If the explanation feels like it's all smoke and mirrors and you can't trust them, be honest about that. Just say, okay, I gave you this opportunity to tell me. This is how I feel that you're coming across. You don't feel genuine. And this is my determination moving forward. It's all about you. It's all up to you. Everything in your life stems from within. And you might want to blame other people. And sure, you can do that. You're going to be coming from a negative state of being a victim instead of being sovereign and accountable, because that's the most freeing thing you can do, is to take your life into your own hands. And people will hate you for it. It's very strange how masculinity is being attacked, and just, the traditional values of masculinity and feminine are being attacked. That doesn't mean you can't be a feminine male, right? Not every person here in existence has to be 100% masculine if you're a guy, or 100% feminine if you're a woman. I mean, we've seen it. We see it every single day. It's, becoming more accepted in the media as we see it, but the main problem with that is that if and I'm going to use this terminology, if you give a mouse a cookie, they're going to want some milk. You give a person an inch, they're going to want to take a mile. That's the problem, essentially, with cancel culture, is they are so used to going after everything and seeing everything in such a negative way that once they get one thing, they're going to want to go after another. I'll give you an example. Washington Redskins. You got that name changed. And then, maybe it was even before this, the Cleveland Guardians, used to be known as the Cleveland Indians, got that name changed. And now the next thing that happened was finally the Redskins. And now that that's been changed, you're going after another team, the Chiefs. Like, how is the Chiefs? Like, how is that offensive? How is that offensive at all? I don't even know how the Indians was offensive. Now, maybe there's the argument that people are like, well, the Indians, the white man shouldn't be, profiting off of Native American culture. Well, what, are you just going to write them out of history entirely? I mean, that is the main thing. Let's be honest, sports is more fascinating on the surface than history. I mean, kids in school don't want to learn. I know I certainly didn't. It was boring. It was not the right environment for me to learn. Now as an adult, I love learning. I love watching YouTube videos on history and making it fun, self-paced. That's my own thing for another day. That's another story for another day, and that was part of my journey. It's part of everyone's journey, is figuring out how you learn best. Because again, all humans are different. We are not one-to-one. Standardized testing is a farce. It's a sham. But I digress. The next thing I wanted to talk about here today is the solar flash. This is something that I came across just last week, just very recently in my life, and it's just something that keeps popping up repeatedly in everything that I'm hearing. And it's very interesting because there was that time period, right, back in the Phoenix Logs I talked about, late 2022 into early 2023, after my great awakening in April of 2022, where I got that message that in 3 months' time I would be king, and that turned out into me changing my energy, reaching a new energy mastery. I went over that the other day. But then there was another message, and that message was, it showed me a timeline convergence, and I referred to it as the convergence before. Now I'm calling it the Great Ascension, the Great Separation, the Great Shift, whatever you want to refer to it as. It is that we have multiple timelines, right? We have positive, negative, and we are going towards a convergence where unity consciousness is the goal, and humanity is going to spread. We are going to shift completely into one fear-based timeline, one fear-based universe of timelines, or one positive universe of timelines. And when we do shift, we make that choice. This year, we have to make that choice. And it kind of reverberates in the next couple of years. There is an initial point coming up that I have referred to as the convergence. That is going to be the solar flash. We're going to have more sun activity throughout the years, throughout 2024, and it peaks in 2025. You might have heard of this recently. It's everywhere. And once that actually happens, I'm going to channel here, and I want to see it, and I can see it clear as day. We're going towards this way, and then there's an event, and we basically break off into two directions. There's one road we're on right now, and then the road splits. There's a fork in the road. One goes to a positive, one goes to a negative based, fear-based. And what's going to happen in the fear-based, I've already talked about ad nauseum. You've heard about it for years now. It is World War III. It is the rise of the NWO. It is the basis of unity consciousness and becoming a global nation under central control, where we give up our freedom completely because we can't be trusted with anything. That's at least what we've been told. And recently I've been able to let that go. I've been able to let all of that go because back in the day I was very adamant about it. Like, this is what's being planned. This is what's happening. And then I thought that was inevitable. Under the Christian doctrine, that is an inevitability. That will happen. However, under the guise of spirituality and knowing we are infinite and it is just so expanding in awareness, you suddenly realize that that is just one of multiple possibilities. And that does not have to be the cycle that we're locked on. So, I see that, the ascension, the 5D, right, the new Earth, that is definitely the next thing that we can strive to be a part of. And that is going to be the positive timeline. We are still going to have unity consciousness. But we as a collective are not going to give up our sovereignty. We are not going to give up control. We are going to stop having the root of all evil, which is the love of money. Please reiterate that in the comments. Write that in there. The root of all evil is not money, but the love of money. To the point where it's detrimental to other humans and to the, I want to say economy. It's not the economy. It is our surroundings, our environment. Another E word, environment. But that is the root of all evil, and that is why. Because when we prioritize small amounts of capital gains against the well-being of our fellow humans and the well-being of our planet, that is when it is evil. That is when that is the root of all evil. So I want you to write that down in the comments. The root of all evil is the love of money. And if that resonates with you, if anything I've said so far resonates with you, I would like you to hit that like button. I would like you to subscribe. I would like you to become a keeper of the light with me, because we are light keepers and we're here to spread the message. We're here to shine. We're here to help awaken others so that they don't have to endure the fear-based timelines where they give up their sovereignty and their control because they see no way out. They have no hope. But 2020 into 2023, I had a second vision that was of the timeline convergence, and then I had a glimpse of the time span, and it was roughly 10 years. That would put us at 2032, and now I'm seeing it. I've only ever reiterated this to my close circle, my close friends, and within this, I have now started seeing the great solar flash, and I have started hearing that in 2020 or that in 2030 that everything's gonna change. Whether that be that the Anunnaki return, whether that be that the singularity happens, right, and then our meddling with AI comes back to bite us. I don't know, but by 2030, everything's going to be different. Again, I had this a couple years ago where I had this vision, and now it's being reiterated and reverberated throughout the community. Throughout everything that I see, I can see this exact message, and that validation does feel good. And as much as I do believe this, I'm still new, right? I went through a false awakening in 2012. Now, I did feel the matrix, but I had my surrounding mechanisms pull me back down, and then I abandoned my practice, and I just drank all the time. And then in 2022, I got the big wake up. 2020, my mom passed away. 2021, I was introduced to Dolores Cannon. Well, I had been introduced before, but I started really delving into her stuff. Then I was faced with my own challenge in the carjacking incident, and the way I handled that was perfect, and it was right after that my connection to God really kicked off. It was right after that my connection really solidified, and I've been getting these images, this stream of information and these concepts, and as I'm embodying them, contemplating on them, really letting this marinate and focusing forward, I'm getting these validations. I am getting to a point where I can just relax and believe that what I am seeing, what I am in my mind, and what I'm getting is the truth. That happened actually at the Super Bowl. I'll go ahead and go off on this side story before we wrap up. But Super Bowl 58, Kansas City Chiefs versus the San Francisco 49ers. I'm a Chiefs fan. I have been since I was 10 years old. My oldest brother moved there, so 1997, I've been a fan of the Chiefs, so I'm not a bandwagoner. Absolutely loving that as a Chicago-based fan, that I actually have a dynasty to root for. I love that. But I was getting nervous because in overtime, if you remember, the San Francisco opening drive was not going well until they got that flag that gave them an extra down, and then they were just unstoppable on their march down to the end zone. I was sitting there, I was like, okay, I finally understand, you know, I'm on the receiving end of these play calls and how it is, or these flags, you know, ref ball as people like to say, and that's why we are, you know, everyone's mad. I can see it from their perspective. It does suck, but it's not the biggest deal. But I'm getting nervous as they're driving down the field, and I just have to have a moment, and I think they just completed like their 5th consecutive gain, and we're like five yards away from the end zone. I thought it was inevitable they were going to score. And I just took a breath and I connected, and it came into my mind and it said, don't be nervous. Your team's going to win. And I said, how? And the voice said, watch. So I opened my eyes, and the very next play was a stop. It was the first stop that we'd had without a gain. And then the next play after that is the overthrow that put them at 4th down, and then they settled for a field goal. And then, of course, you know, they marched down, and on that final drive on the way down, I was just completely calm. It was so validating in that moment that, okay, this is real. And I've had multiple validating moments like that. Again, my biggest thing is that in my own personal journey, I have had to distinguish between what my ego is telling me and what is a real authentic connection to the God source. Because sometimes I just come up with this otherworldly stuff that I truly believe, and then it doesn't happen. But that usually is centered around money. That usually is centered around a commercial gain, right? Some sort of commercial gain that I have wanted for some time, or I perceive that I want. This is completely different. This is just something that is nonsensical. I say nonsensical. It is not the utmost importance. It just gives me little wisdom nuggets, and then they come true. And it lets me know that, hey, my connection is real. You're always with me. And it's very validating. And with that validation, I can relax even deeper and trust what I'm getting. Now, always remember, discernment is important. I am becoming more trusting of this connection as my message, as I'm getting messages of peace, as I'm getting more information about like the solar flash, how this 8-year span, 7-year span, now a 6-year span is going to change, how it's going to manifest, and we are going to see this separation into a positive based timeline. Because if you're watching this, you're on the right timeline. You're on the best timeline. I say it over and over again. We are on the best timeline. We are on the timeline where we are not going to take it rolling over. We are not going to allow ourselves to become victims. We are going to be those spiritual warriors, and we are going to stand up for ourselves. We're going to take it back, and the matrix is going to fall. I want you to reiterate that in the comments. I am a light warrior. I am a keeper of the light. I am sovereign. My sovereignty is non-negotiable. The matrix will fall. Peace will reign. Peace will reign. And that is a beautiful thing. That is a very beautiful thing. So the solar flash is coming. The convergence is happening right now, and you have the choice. No matter what your circumstances are, you do have a choice. Remember that. I want you to write that down in the comments, that I always have a choice. You always have a choice, and you are accountable for yourself. Use the warrior mentality and know that it's going to be okay, and that peace will reign. What a lovely message to end our week on. Everyone, I want to thank you so much for watching today's episode here as I continue in the car. My name is Ken. I'm also known as the Phoenix. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.